You're listening to Inside Sport on 103.2 Dublin City FM.
Well, MMA is short for mixed martial arts, which is obviously a general term meaning like the practice of several different styles of martial arts. Originally, like, competitions would have been pretty much just one style or another, like karate or kickboxing. Then, there's so many different styles of martial arts. There's obviously striking, there's groundwork, there's wrestling. And mixed martial arts is the combination of wrestling and grappling as well as striking. And
how did you get into MMA yourself?
Well, I'm kind of a long-term martial artist. Like, I've been doing martial arts since I was 5. And I went through the traditional routes. I went through like karate and kickboxing and various different forms of martial arts. Then about 1993, the UFC kind of came on the scene, and a lot of people became more interested in this revolutionary new sport. So it was a pretty easy enough transition for myself to become involved with it.
And tell us about your karate and kickboxing world titles.
Well, 2 years ago, I entered. It was the last world title I'd won in kickboxing and karate. I won the US Open. And in the form of fighting called Continuous, which basically is, as you'd know, it's kickboxing as you'd know. It's like boxing with kicks. It's considered to be like that would be an amateur world title. I've never competed professionally before. There was a lot less of opportunities for me within kickboxing and karate. Like, everything is pretty much amateur, even though it's very high level. It's not an Olympic sport yet, so the highest level pretty much are amateur competitions, amateur world championships. And the great thing about MMA is it's given me the opportunity. I turned pro this year in MMA, so I've had 2 pro fights so far. So it's given me opportunities that the other combat sports never did.
I was researching about you last night, and I found that you were battling your way through 100 kickboxers within 3.5 hours.
Yeah, I did that. That was an event that we did for charity a few years ago, where I had to do 100 rounds with 100 different opponents. It was in aid of Bernardo's children's charity, so we ended up raising over €16,500 for them. But it was grueling. It was grueling.
I also saw that you applied for the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, that's right. The Ultimate Fighter, or the UFC, has been in Ireland before. And the great thing about the Ultimate Fighter, the television show, Tough as people call it, is it's great for people like myself who are looking to get more experience. And I mean, you have to put yourself forward for these things. It's not easy to put yourself forward, especially being from a country that MMA is still relatively new, and there's not as many opportunities here as there would be in other countries. So yeah, no, I'd absolutely love to do it, and I put myself forward for it. And fingers crossed, you never know what might happen.
And how long have you been fighting in MMA yourself, though?
MMA this year is the first year I turned pro. I had an amateur fight the year before, so I've really only made the transition properly in the last 2 years.
And I see you trained with George St. Pierre. What was that like?
That's right. I've actually trained with him twice. I trained with him this year and last year. I actually was training with him and helping him train when he was training for his BJ Penn fight, which was the biggest fight of his career at the time. And they were looking for, a striker. I'd be predominantly from a striking background, as much as I'm practicing. A lot of wrestling and BJJ now. I'd be known more for my karate and kickboxing. So he was looking for, he brings in a lot of different opponents and partners to train with. So I mean, I was lucky. Obviously, I was very privileged to be brought over. I've been brought over twice to train with him, and hopefully I'll be brought over again because he has another fight coming up.
When you're fighting, do you predominantly do it standing up or on the ground?
At this stage, I don't know. It depends. Now at this stage, it depends on the opponent. See, the standard is so much higher than when it started. In 1993, it was a very, very different sport. Everybody is so well versed at everything now. I mean, if you're just a one-dimensional fighter, like if I was just good at striking, I mean, everybody's just going to try to take me down. So, I mean, the great thing about me is I haven't gotten bored. I mean, I've been doing martial arts for over 25 years, and I still feel like a beginner. And that's the great thing about MMA is it's opened up loads of different avenues for me. I mean, I've had to really, really work a lot harder on my wrestling. I had done judo and I had done bits of wrestling, but never to the extent that I'm involved in it now. So I don't know. It'll depend on on your opponent basically. But everybody is good at everything now, so you can't just be better at one thing anymore.
And I saw a video of you before a fight warming up. How intense do you get?
Well, just before the fight, I'm probably one of those that I'm a little bit lazy just before the fight. I actually don't warm up too much. Some people get really, really nervous before they compete, and including very experienced people. I'm nervous, but I don't seem to get as nervous as other people. Probably because I have entered. I've entered hundreds of competitions in karate and kickboxing, and even though MMA is it's a different type of combat sport. I'm still used to the process of competing. A lot of people get so nervous and they kind of overtrain and they overdo the warm up before they get into the ring of the cage. I'm kind of the opposite. I just want to be a little bit warm up and I want to get in and use my nerves on my opponent.
And how do you get so much time to train up-and-coming fighters and run 3 martial arts studios?
Well, I'm still trying to figure that one out myself. It's not training full-time. I mean, you're anyone that's involved in this sport, you really have to love what you do. It isn't easy trying to work and trying to train and, trying to help other people as well get involved. I mean, it isn't easy to do. I mean, I am lucky enough that I work within the field. I run 3 martial arts studios. I'm not the only one that runs it. There is a head instructor in each of the studios that I run, so I kind of help out as much as I can, and I'm very much involved. And I mean, the fact that all our studios, Martial Arts Incorporated, they're all open like 6 days a week. So I mean, you really have to love what you do. From the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, I'm involved in this sport.
And just finally, before I go, I saw on the internet there's some talk about MMA becoming an Olympic sport. Do you think that'll ever happen?
Well, I mean, there's talk that it had been an Olympic sport originally, or like pancration was the name that mixed martial arts would have been headed on there back in the day. I mean, so people are still researching that, and if people can prove that it's very similar to the sport that is practiced now, I'm sure it'll make it easier to become an Olympic sport. Whether it does or not, it is a huge sport which is growing all the time. I mean, with the likes, it's everywhere on television. I mean, everybody that comes to our studios are interested in mixed martial arts because they've seen it on the computer or they watch the UFC. Hopefully someday it does. I mean, within the Olympics that would be the amateur version.